GoForThe2.com in with the Week 10 college predictions. Again, apologies for the late video, but just due to work schedule, this is the way we're going to do it, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll get it out before 5 p.m. A lot of dogs on the ticket, a lot of rivalry games, so let's jump right into it. Indiana laying 7.5 now on the road. In East Lansing against Michigan State. Michigan State coming off a rivalry game. They were in that matchup in the first half. Second half, Michigan pulls away to win the ball game and get the cover, 7 points in Ann Arbor. They come back home, face a red-hot Indiana team that gets the winning cover last week over Will Rogers in Washington. They laid the 6.5 at home with Taven Jackson, the backup. They step up, force 2 interceptions, and get the dominant 14-point win against Washington. Now they go on the road. This has not been an easy place for Indiana to play, especially Michigan State. Michigan State has won 2 of the last 4 in the matchup. Last time that Indiana won was back with Michael Penix back in 2020. Now the line's moved in favor of Indiana. I know they're dominant. I know Kurt Cignetti has done a fantastic job. But in terms of this type of landscape on the road, with or without Curtis Rourke, I'm taking Michigan State plus the points. Don't be shocked if they strike the upset on Saturday. Hand Indiana their first loss. 2 rivalry games. We have Florida and Georgia. Florida catching 16.5 in this matchup. Georgia's won 3 straight in the series by an average margin of victory of about 24 points per game. Picked up this victory last year in Jacksonville, 43-20. You got both teams coming out of a bye week. Georgia played 2 weeks ago against Texas, played very well from a defensive perspective. Offensively, a little inconsistent in the passing attack. Carson Beck, $175 and 3 interceptions. On the flip side, you had Kentucky and Florida. Florida put up a 48 spot on that Kentucky defense in the swamp. They have a mobile quarterback in terms of Lagway. That could be a factor going up against the Georgia defense. We saw that Jalen Milroe had success in regards to the RPO game. With an extra week of preparation, a lot of pressure on Billy Napier, I think Florida's playing a little bit with house money. I'm going to take the 16.5 against the Bulldogs. Give me the Gators with the points. Louisville on the road against Clemson. Clemson's won 8 straight in the series. Louisville hasn't defeated Clemson in all 8 meetings. Meetings started back in 2014. You have Louisville that came from behind last week in Chestnut Hill. Tyler Shuck and the crew, Isaac Brown, they pulled it out 31-27. On the flip side, you have Clemson coming out of a bye week. Last time they played was 2 weeks ago. They get the win over Tony Elliott in Virginia, 48-31. The win, but no cover, laying 28.5. Clemson dominant home team. As we've discussed, they've only lost 3 times dating back to 2015 straight up. They're a dominant home team. This year, they're 4-0 at home, 3-1 against the number. They've won those 4 games, though, straight up by an average margin of victory of 28.4 points per game. I'm always a big believer, and I've said this time and time again on the radio and following me, either a bye week could be beneficial or detrimental to an offense, especially as it relates to the quarterback to wide receiver relationship. We see Cade Klubnik and this offense hitting on all cylinders. Now you have the bye week. I'm not suggesting maybe Clemson loses this game, but you have Tyler Shuck. You have a high-powered offense. Ja'Cory Brooks with 44 receptions, 8 touchdowns on the year, over 700 yards. That leads the team. Isaac Brown, an above-average running back. Offensive line playing very well for Louisville, and an experienced quarterback. Love him or hate him, you get high highs and low lows with Tyler Shuck. Just go back to his days at Oregon, Texas Tech, and now Louisville. You never know what to expect, but he is mobile as well. Plus 10.5. Give me Louisville with the points in this matchup. We'll see how it plays out. It is a late-night kick in Death Valley, so that could also benefit the Tigers, but I'm going to take the points with the Cardinals in that matchup. Another rivalry game, Army and Air Force. Huge number. Army undefeated, we know that. They're laying over 21. It's 23.5 to the Air Force Falcons. I understand Air Force is terrible, but if you date back to last year, Air Force was 8-0 before they overlooked Army in this matchup. Potential turnaround for the Falcons. They remember that. I don't know if they win, but give me the 23.5 points with the Air Force Falcons in that matchup. USC, UW. Last year, 52-42. That was the Caleb Williams game against Michael Penix. Washington got the road win and covered by 10 points. Will Rogers, I've always said he was playing above his head in regards to the season, playing lights out at 1.13 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Now he throws 2 picks against Indiana. He comes back home. We saw the rushing attack get going for USC against Rutgers. Woody Marks with 3 touchdown runs in the first half. They dominate and win against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Rushing attack on the road is always what travels well. Give me USC. They're laying 2.5 against the Huskies in this matchup. Just got to believe that Lincoln Riley on the road, they've been there in this type of situation before against a former Pac-12 opponent. They know them well. Give me USC to not strike the upset, but win and cover the 2.5-point number against the Huskies. I think it's an afternoon kick as well. Another big matchup taking place is Arkansas and Ole Miss. Ole Miss now laying, I believe, 7.5. They did not play well at home against Oklahoma. They laid almost 19.5, 20 points against Jackson Arnold in that offense. They were completely one-dimensional. Fourth quarter was multiple sacks. That front seven stepped up after Ole Miss had the 12-point lead. That was without Harris in that lineup. For the Rebels, it was Watkins that stepped up in the receiving game. Caught a touchdown pass by Jackson Dart in the second half of that matchup. They win it by 12. But this is a red-hot Arkansas team from an offensive perspective. They put up 50-plus points on Mississippi State. Taylon Green with 5 touchdowns, over 300 yards. He's running. They're throwing. They have the potential now at 5-3 to become bowl eligible. Last year, this game was a 7-point spread. Ole Miss won but didn't cover against KJ Jefferson. I just like Sam Pittman as a dog. I know this spread technically suggests that Ole Miss lay the points with Ole Miss, but I'm going to take it with Arkansas. I'm going to fade the action. Give me the 7.5 with the Razorbacks in this matchup. Last one, I got to go back to Texas Tech. They should have won that game last week against TCU. Brennan Morton and the crew trailed in that matchup 14-3. They then stormed ahead, had a 17-point lead. In the second half, Morton gets hurt, give way to the redshirt freshman Hammond. Kid was a deer in the headlights, even though he scored a touchdown. The costly fumble, could never get back from a defensive perspective. They gave up a touchdown with about 4 minutes left to allow TCU to win, but not cover against Texas Tech. Now they go on the road to face Iowa State. The lineup was about 14.5 with Hammond getting the nod. Brennan Morton back at practice on Tuesday. Supposedly, he looks strong. Don't count out Texas Tech yet. I know you could bash me for this. Texas Tech still has an outside shot, should they win out, especially this game, to potentially make it to the Big 12 championship. Plus 13.5, I just think is way too much. UCF put up over 300 rushing yards on that front seven. Taj Brooks, this offensive line, still playing very well. Give me Texas Tech plus the points. Your 7 selections for Saturday. Let me rip through them. Michigan State plus the 7.5. Texas Tech plus the 13.5. Florida plus the 16.5. Air Force plus the 23.5. Michigan State plus the 7.5. Louisville plus the 10.5. USC minus the 2.5, and Arkansas plus the 7.5. Your 7 total picks. One more time. Michigan State, Texas Tech, Florida, USC, Louisville, Air Force, Arkansas. See you next week.